Hello, and welcome to Your Wealthy Self with me, Regina Martinelli. This show is about money and a whole lot more. Here we focus on you being able to expand your capacity for money, success, abundance, and inner wealth. For you to have what's important to you inside and out so you can be your wealthy self. This show is about honoring your wholeness, that you are actually enough just as you are in this moment to have what's most important to you, whatever that is for you. You can create it. You can create what's important to you, and you can do it without struggle. You can do it with ease and certainty. Today, I am so excited about the show. Today, we want to welcome Dr. Esther Graham as our first guest on our show. Yay! She is the CEO, hi, of Festa, Donna. She's also a TV show host called Creating Your Desired Life on the I Have Today network on E360TV.com. I am so excited to have you here, Esther. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. This is an honor, especially to be the first guest, right? Hey!
So I would love for you to tell us a little bit about what you do before I start getting in there and pickling your brain and asking you all sorts of questions more deeply. But so give us a little background about what you do. And I mean, I know why you're so fabulous, but I want you to share with our audience.
So, oh my gosh, I'm in a nutshell. What do I do? I feel like it's almost like it's easier for me to say what I don't do, but what I am is what I am is an entrepreneur. I like to say that I'm a woman that love to work with other women to ensure that they are healthy, that they feel loved, that they feel as if they are enough, that they are worthy. And so what I do is coaching. I do mentoring. I'm a business person. I've got a few businesses. I'm an author. I'm a speaker, TEDx, and all of those great things. But I think what brings me a lot of joy in my story, knowing my background, is just seeing other women be very successful in every area of their life. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
Yeah. You're great. You're changing the world, changing lives. And you're like, I just put in a nutshell. Well, thank you for that. Yeah. So wonderful. So with everything that you do, like you said, it's easier to say what you don't do, but all that you do and all that you've done to be the amazing you, what do you get the most joy out of doing?
So one of my favorite quotes is by Gandhi that says, be the change you want to see. So the joy that I get, the most joy that I get from what I do is not just being the change I want to see, but being that example to see the change in others that I want to see. And what I want to see in their change is what they want to see. Does that make sense? So it aligns,
Absolutely.
And so I think listen, one of the most powerful things I think is to see a woman go from here to here, or here, even if it's a nano movement, forward moving to where she's beginning to understand who she is as that person, as that human being, as that whole woman. And to see when it's like, boom, she goes from here to here. That's where I get my joy, is to see the change. And the change is always better. It's always going up. It's always moving the needle forward.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Yeah, because we're always evolving and we're always learning and growing. It's one of the things, I know you have a neuro background as well, that our brain is actually set to stabilize, but our consciousness is set to expand. And when we can expand and have richer experiences of ourselves in the world, it makes quite a difference.
It makes such a difference. And listen, a lot of that is where we have to begin to change our mindset, our thoughts, our perspective, And so I really believe in the power, if you can change your thoughts, that you can literally change your life, right? As you said, the brain is there to keep us safe.
Yes.
Yes. That remember when this happened before? Don't do that. But if we can just begin to change that part, change that, and expand it, then we would be so surprised at how our very lives would change.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. You're speaking my language. So let me ask you this. What's some of your favorite methods that you love to use to help people shift their mindsets?
So some of my methods is just doing some activities like voicing your emotions, things like, if you're struggling in a relationship, whether it's a relationship that's gone on, but you're still need healing from it, it's doing things like the Total Truth Letter. It's just, and it's really, there's an activity called timeline therapy. Those are some of the things I do to help shift where you are and really to help facilitate healing, from the inside out. So I just really believe that transformation comes from within, of course. Right. And so and once you begin to transform in your mind and in your heart, and the reason I say the two, Regina, is because there's only 13 inches really from our head to our hearts, right? Our mind. And so if we can begin to say transform in our minds, that it automatically just shifts to our heart. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. And then, because there's a technique I love as well. It's very similar. The acknowledgement, where you actually sit with what the experience is, like you're talking about with the emotions.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this. Do you find that when people do that, they actually can get access to their heart almost instantaneously?
Yes.
And it's really the emotions that are coming from here that have gotten distorted, that come out kind of through our thinking, or our brain, or our perceptions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when we acknowledge that, it's like you can even let that go. Because sometimes I'll find if I'm caught, like I had to name, there was something I was supposed to do and I didn't want to do it. And I'd been putting it off and I kept saying, I don't want to do it. And I go, I'm just going to claim it. I don't want to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I sat with it and stopped resisting it, I could actually see that fear showed up. And then I realized it wasn't even my fear. It was this old imprint from, ancestral stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds similar to what you're doing, like acknowledging what's going on in the emotion and getting in touch.
It just voicing that emotion and just getting in touch, with who you are. How I feel about this. I like to use the analogy, with is it AA, the AA,
Yeah.
Alcoholic Anonymous.
Not the
So
tow truck.
yeah. So I always get it mixed up with triple A. And is it triple A?
Well, they're both a service that helps, right?
Right. But if you're alcoholic, one of the things they teach you is that you first have to acknowledge that's who you are. So I think of that as, if I'm hurt, if I don't like doing it, let me just acknowledge it. Yeah. And then let me lean into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you will find that once you can do that, it releases, it just releases you to say, okay. It's just like you said, my fear wasn't even really fear. It's an imprint that I had from my past. Yeah. And until you recognize that, you cannot remove it.
Yes. And there's something you just said that I love too, is the okay. Because when you get to the okay, when you lean into that fear, when you get to the okay, you actually have stopped resisting it. And something only persists when you resist it. So there's that, I don't know if it's the Buddha way, or there's some way that when you go like, and it's not Buddhist, but it's, there's this fighting technique where you roll with it. And and they're like, I'm going to take this punch. Not that we're throwing punch literally, then you can feel the pain. But if you roll with it, then it actually goes past and it rolls through. And it's the same thing with like not resisting the fear, the overwhelm, the stress, whatever it is that's going on. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and it's so powerful when you do all of that. You would be so surprised how you would change. And the change will begin from the inside. And I think that when you begin to do that, Regina, I always say that in the midst, you can have other challenges that come up. But when that change begins to really happen on the inside, when you begin to lean into your emotions, you begin to lean into all of these things, those challenges aren't so great anymore. They may still be there, but you could navigate through it. You could still have a joy through it. You could still have a peace through it. Yeah.
Right. Because you also have the experience of you survived the one before and it was okay.
Yes. And it was okay. You didn't die. You didn't, yeah.
Versus this perceived experience of like, oh my goodness, if I let this overtake me, it's going to crush me. When really we're not going to be crushed by emotion in that way, but it feels like that. And I don't know if you find this, but I find that because that original imprint was most likely laid down in childhood. And for a child, that much emotion does feel like annihilation or, suffocation or whatever it's going to be. So we carry that forward. And then as an adult, you have the same disproportion experience.
Yeah. It's it just goes through, because here it is, we're born. If you think about this, we're, as children, we're born, right? And we're born so innocently, we're just so perfect, our parents love us, we're just so beautiful, but then as life continues, our development, it gets arrested, so my background is in education, and specifically in early childhood, so I tend to come from that. Sometimes our whole development gets arrested, and it takes us all the way into our adult life.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
if we don't address it, like you just said, it becomes even more distorted. And what we have to do as we look and as we lean in, we could go all the way back,
Mhm.
and we could identify it once we begin to lean into it and say, this is where it came from. Now let me go to the root, and now let me begin to pull it up, so it doesn't any longer affect me in my adult life. I don't continue to walk with it.
Right, because when we carry it from our childhood through our adult life, then we go into new situations, new
Oh
jobs, new
yeah.
relationships. We think that person or situation is going to make us feel safe 50 years ago or
50
40
years
years
ago.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and no one could do that.
No one, yeah. Yeah, yeah. And we just have to release it. But that sometimes is the hardest. Here's the other piece that sometimes we do. We tend to bury our emotions,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. And anything buried alive is not dead.
I
You know what I
love that
mean? So it's
expression.
going to come up at some So I said, it's going to come up at some point, because if it's buried, it's not dead. It's going to come up.
Oh my God. I'm going to quote you on that. I love that.
Yes. So
Well,
it's
yeah.
going to
And
come up.
and it's like when we bury it, we're trying to deny that it's part of our experience, which is part of
Yeah.
us. And we think it's bad, evil, or wrong or shameful. And so we bury it instead of, like we said, like you were talking before about leaning into it and then getting okay with it. And if you don't resist it, you can actually include it in your experience. Doesn't mean that you are thrilled that it happened. Doesn't mean you want it to happen, or that it was okay that it happened. It just means it is part of the larger you. So then it doesn't have to resurface in unwanted ways like autoimmune or,
Yeah.
stress or upset. Yeah.
Yeah, but what you just said it's right. It manifested when we hold on, autoimmune, stress, cancer, all of these things. And many times we don't realize that we get all of these disease, our health, the disease, everything is affected by those packed in emotions. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
If we send them underground, then they go underground, and I talk about it also as parts of ourselves. And that part actually had a positive intention for
Mhm.
why it got created and why it got put into place.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's again about us being safe, and it still has to fulfill its intention. So it starts to go find it somewhere else until we actually get okay with it and acknowledge it and bring it up.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to tell you a situation that happened, and I just recently, honestly, started talking about it and saying, hey, let me just acknowledge that this happened. But as a senior in high school, and Regina, I told absolutely no one. I just kind of buried it and tried to move on. But I was sexually assaulted.
Mhm.
So I thought, like I started thinking about that. And I remember I was able to get away, but it was a fight to get away. And I remember how I told no one. I went home and I began to scrub myself, and, all of these things, watch what I wear, and all of these things. And when the person says to you, well, no one's going to believe you if you say anything anyway, because
Mhm.
if you think, I didn't really know this person. So it
Mhm.
wasn't like a family member. I just kind of walked into a situation like, whoa, and did not just going to meet a friend, honestly.
Mhm.
And the friend wasn't there, but their family member was there.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. And so I say that to say this. It wasn't on really till I started like saying, but you know what? This happened to me. And
Mhm.
I fought, and it affected me without me even realizing it for quite a while, until I said, whoa, this happened to me. Let me acknowledge it. And then let me realize what I gained from that.
Mhm.
What did I learn?
Yeah.
How is this a part of Esther, the person?
Yes.
How was this a part of my journey that has really made me the person who I am right now? And I believe because of that, that's one reason I'm such an advocate for women. I'm an advocate for women, for domestic violence, for all of those things. I'm an advocate for that because listen, I believe that we were created for a beautiful purpose, and things happen to us that derail us.
Yeah.
You know, but let
Mhm.
me be on purpose and let me live my life where I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm joyful, I love me. And so that's what I want for other women, to see that you are enough and there's absolutely nothing that you cannot do.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yes. Love it. Love it all. And thank you for sharing that. So, with all the work that you do, what are you most intrigued with that you don't talk about as much as you'd like?
The most I'm intrigued with that I don't get to talk about it as much as I like
Yeah.
is I'm always intrigued with when I walk into the rooms, the various type of people
Yeah.
that come together, you know, my mind, I guess my mind is just always blown by that. Like I come into this room and I meet powerful women that from different race and culture and backgrounds and from with different, they're in different professions, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
coming together. And I'm just always amazed at how much we have in common.
Yeah.
Although we may have different ethnicities, we may have different cultures, come from different countries, totally different background, but there's so many things that we have in common that we get to connect on. And I'm just always amazed. It's like, wow. So sometimes I sit, and when I'm with a group of women, sometimes I just sit quietly. And one of the reasons I do is because I'm just taking in just what people are saying, and these beautiful women with their accents or with their this, it just amazes me. And we come together as one group saying, this is what we all have in common. Yeah. I don't get to talk about that a lot. That's the
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yes, there's something that pulled you all together that you all resonate towards. And what a
Yeah.
beautiful room it
Yeah.
is when you,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And where there's no, in the world we live in, there's just so much, hate and so many things going on. But when you step into rooms like this, it's like you're in a whole other world to where, it's like, oh, wow. See, human beings can come together
mhm.
and find a
Yes.
common ground and love each other and be okay with each other. We just have to take the opportunity to do it.
Right. And there's something that got off somewhere where we think belonging, that sense of belonging actually comes from being alike versus nature wants diversity. It wants so much diversity. And we all have some commonality, like, the animal kingdom, right? Or whatever it is. But there is
Yeah.
a commonality that we have. We all want happiness or joy or connection to ourselves and others. But we can all be so diverse and different. And when it breaks down to like we need to be alike, that actually is not as
Because if
stable
you
or
have value, it's boring.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
besides that's boring. It's also not.
But if we have this diversity, we're adding value. You add value to me.
Hmm.
And yet there's things that we're aligned on. There's things that we have in common. For example, we're both women, we're both doing, but you add value because you're so different. Does
Hmm.
that make sense? And so
Absolutely.
that's the thing that just blows my mind. When again on the outside we're looking for, that I mean, it's like, no, we're here together. This is
Yeah,
us,
right. And that
Yeah,
can expand. I love that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so with all the women that you deal with and men as well, everyone that you deal with and that you have an experience with, what do you think is the biggest obstacle that women bump up against in creating their desired life?
I think the biggest obstacle is realizing that you deserve it, the life that you want.
Hmm.
Um, I think many of us don't think that we deserve it for whatever the reasons may be. Everyone always has a reason why they don't think that they deserve it, or why they don't think that they're enough, or they don't think that they can achieve it because of whatever they've experienced in their past or their trauma or anything like that. And I think that's the biggest obstacle. So one of the first things I really try to work through is first you haven't realizing that you deserve to build your desired life. You deserve to create it. You deserve to live a life by design. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's so true. And I describe it as getting in touch with the truth of who you are.
Hmm.
And do you find that that's even hard for women too, is it finding the truth of who they are because they've been so conditioned or shut down or
Yeah.
just wrapped in this protective shield that they don't actually feel safe to express it or even get in touch with it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that to be very, very true. So true that I do an activity where we talk about who you are and we really dive in, because this is what happens to us, Regina. We'll say, when we begin to talk about who we are, we begin to say, oh, I'm a mother, and we use titles, but that's
Mhm.
not who we really are.
Yeah.
Right. And so getting to who we really are, I think that's the issue. Is that you don't know who you really are and you don't know what's inside of you. So now we've got to unpack and get to that, because what's inside of you is absolutely great and powerful. Yeah.
It's beautiful, magnificent, and it's on purpose. Like it's here to be shared and shined.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So then knowing this and seeing, as I've seen in my work, women who go through decades of feeling disempowered or not worthy or deserving or shut down, how do we empower the next generation to have that inner alignment with the truth of who they are?
I think the way that we do it is make sure that there's conversations,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, conversations with the younger generation. Let's talk about who you are. Let's talk about what you're experiencing right now. And I think, and then really teaching them to embrace who they are at whatever level they are. So I embrace myself now until I discover some more about me, and I embrace that too. And so I think it's a process. I think if we begin to work and begin to teach our younger generation to begin to do some inner work, then I think that they'll be better human beings, even more than we are, because they'll catch it a lot faster.
Right.
You
And I love that.
know?
Yes, I love that piece of embracing who they are. And then as they get to know more of themselves, embracing that as well. Because there's no, and this is just me personally, the thought of like, be your best version. And then like 6 months, a year later, there's a better version. So is your last version not as good
Yeah,
versus
exactly.
they're all precious and beautiful and it keeps growing and expanding. So those expansions are just as precious and beautiful and
Yeah.
worthy.
Yeah, yeah, it's at every level. Embrace who you are at every level. I call it, like rise into your destiny. I think that destiny comes in stages. And so when I graduated from high school and I went to university and did all of that, I fulfilled the destiny at that time. I fulfilled that purpose at who I am for that moment. Then I got married, became a mother, and there's all different stages, all coming together to make me who I am right now.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I don't think it's, the best version of you. That was a good version then for what I knew.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. And you're
Yeah.
happy you had that version.
I'm happy I had that version. It's a part of who I am now. And so there's stages. So I think we go through stages of who we are, and you embrace every stage of that.
Yeah, even if it's in a constricted stage, like I was married and divorced, and when I was divorcing, I wrote my ex-husband a letter and I said, just thank you. Thank you for everything from before, during, and afterwards. I will always cherish that journey, even the hard times, because it helped me be more of who I am today.
Yeah.
And even in those times when you don't feel the best, you don't feel the best about yourself, that's still a wonderful, precious version of yourself.
Yeah. Agreed 100%. 100%. Even, it's here's the saying, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all of it works together for your good. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so but like, you think and say, even though it's the difficult times, the hurtful times, I'm grateful I went through it. That
Yeah.
was the stage, you know, and I was doing the best that I could do at that time. And so let me embrace that. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Esther, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
So we're getting close to our time. This has been fabulous. So tell our audience how you create your wealthy self, because our show is about being authentically aligned with the truth of who you are. How do you do that for yourself?
How do I create my wealthy self? Oh my gosh. I embrace me 100%. My wealthy self has nothing really to do with money. And I'm not saying, that money isn't important. Because of course we know we need it to create wonderful memories and to live. But for me, my wealthy self is knowing that I know who I am. I'm at peace. I have joy. And even in the midst of my challenges, I can navigate through them and still maintain my peace and my joy. Um, my wealthy self is my love for others, my love for myself. Um, I think that's me all the way. So I think I'm a very wealthy person because I've created my desired life. I've created a life that I wanted. And what I needed to let go and release, I've done that. And by the way, I'm still releasing because we live life. It's a journey, right? And so in everything I need to release, even as it comes up, let me work on releasing that so I can continue to live a wealthy life.
Wonderful. Thank you. Oh, that's beautiful, Esther. And thank you for taking the time to
And
share more
yeah,
of who you are with us. It's been an honor and a pleasure to connect with you.
thank you.
Please tune in. Yes, please tune in to watch Esther on the I Have Today. I'm going to pull up your network on E360 TV Live. And here is also where you can find her, find out more about what she does and the retreats that she has. We look so forward to seeing your show and how it goes, all those wonderful things, creating your desired life. It's amazing. Her times are on Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. And if you've gotten anything from today's show, please share it. There's enough fear in the world. Let's create more joy. And I want you to know I love and adore you. You are an incredibly beautiful and precious being. Please know you are enough, and we will see you next time.